Troy Shaw with Focus on Diversity. We are here with Jeff Hamilton. He is the Vice President and General Manager of Sprecher Brewery. Now, Jeff, we toured your facilities, absolutely beautiful facilities. One of which, by the way, is one that deals with tradition as it pertains to brewing. Let's talk about the brand new beers that you're brewing, specifically for African style beers and perhaps maybe some of the minority populace here in Southeast Wisconsin and abroad. Tell us about these two beers that we have in front of us right now.
Well, on this side we've got the Mbege style beer, which is traditionally brewed in East Africa, near some of the Kilimanjaro region of Tanzania. Really, they make a lot of beer of this style. It's called Mbege. It's made primarily with bananas as the fermentation sugar. Shakparo style, which is more from Western Africa. And this one is made with sorghum as the primary fermentable sugar, also a little bit of millet in it. These beers, again, don't have the fruit, but are again, traditional African ingredients that you normally wouldn't use for making beer here in the United States.
Now, I have to ask you, of course, this being focused on diversity, what was it that prompted Sprecher to say, okay, we're going to create a beer that could be enjoyed by people of color, such as African Americans? What prompted that?
We started doing the research, and we were really very surprised to find out that really more beer is brewed in Africa than probably any place else on Earth. Again, it's a family tradition there. Most of it is brewed for family consumption, and they do it almost on a weekly basis. In some cases, it's a very important food source. So in addition to providing a beverage, it actually is very nutritional and is one of the main staples in the diet in some villages.
Well, we're going to actually try some of these beers. I'm not necessarily a beer drinker, but we're going to try some of them nonetheless. Wow, that's good. That was pretty good. And so this is Focus on Diversity signing off. I'm here with Jeff Hamilton, Vice President and General Manager of Sprecher Brewery. Well, thanks again, and just keep watching on the television program. We're going to be bringing many more stories like this in the future. God bless, and we'll be seeing you soon. And that was Sprecher Brewery. That's a company here in Southeast Wisconsin thinking about, this is what I find interesting about that particular interview, gentlemen. And no, there aren't any samples here in studio. What I find interesting about that is that, there are more companies now taking a look at the minority populace and specifically marketing and creating brands of different types of, whether it's beer, food, what have you, specifically for those ethnic groups. Eugene, is that now starting to become the trend in the United States, or what do you think?
Well, I think any smart company is certainly going to try to market the African American community. I think there's a lot of indications of people opening up, and I think basically trying to present more products. I might not necessarily see the need for more what they call sin products, because alcohols, cigarettes. African Americans already have way too many problems with a lot of that stuff, I have to honestly say.
Well, the Miller Brewing Company has now also started to create something called Chile. It's I believe it's Chile. A beer specifically created in the fashion that the Hispanic community. What do you think about this new style of now branding and marketing different types of products, Robert?
Well, I think that it just, Eugene hit it on the head. You got a Latino market that has over $900 billion and market that companies want to tap into, and you've seen this all over the United States. Tortilla chips and salsa is being sold in the mainstream, and that's targeting the non-Latino population to buy that material. So they're figuring, well, let's turn it around and let's target specifically the Latino population with this kind of beer, and let's see if they're willing to buy it.
Companies now are thinking about more ways in which they can make money in different types of market, Chris. As a CEO of your own company, you would have to, you're not necessarily a product-oriented kind of food, but still, you have to be taking a look at these markets.
They're very wise. Look at what's happened and progressed. You've got the health food market. You've got people that are doing organic foods, the green foods and the green buildings and things. This is just another piece of the evolution. We're all people, so there's certain segments and certain populations that are under marketed too in regards to it. So promoting the Latino beers or promoting the African American beers and pulling those out. Miller Brewing, our local brewery, is owned by a South African breweries. And the gentleman on there was correct. They have more breweries there in South Africa than anywhere else in the world. So they're pulling from that, and they're taking that experience now, and they're seeing how that affects them. And as other businesses, they're pulling to those markets and saying, this is a revenue generator for us.
And if you're a company out there that would like to get the word out to us about some of the products that you're making in the form and the realm of particularly marketing to certain ethnic groups of people, please by all means give us a call here at Focus on Diversity. That's 414-475-3552. Or you can get a hold of me on my email address. That's troy@focusondiversity.com. And when we come back, we're going to keep the heat with the discussion on diversity. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And now back to Focus on Diversity with Troy Shaw.
And welcome back to the program. Let's continue our discussion. We got flourishing supremacy activity. Last year, huge street protests made millions of immigrants more visible and powerful, but they also seem to have revived a hateful counterforce, white supremacists. A new report from the Anti-Defamation League says that groups linked to the KKK and neo-Nazis have grown significantly more active since those can we call those protests, Robert? I mean, weren't there protests to get America to recognize immigrants who are considered to be illegal but still?
Well, people will call them protests. We were more looking at the term of an awakening, making aware of the issues that are impacting families and how these issues could impact the country as a whole negatively.
But white supremacists actually have gained more in strength and power since these things have gone on.
And they gained more in strength and power because you had a bunch of knucklehead politicians out there trying to use the issue to stimulate prejudices, advertising their campaigns so that they can get elected, and putting all the blame of the social ills and the economic ills of their areas on the backs of the immigrant population. And that has helped to fuel this rise in hate and these Nazis and these Ku Klux Klan members who look at these politicians and listen to people like Senator Grothman here in West Bend, Wisconsin, who make asinine statements about the very populations that these guys are after.
Now, I'm not going to agree with the methods of these particular organizations at all. But what we have going on here, though, is basically a lot of people saying that these illegal immigrants are trying to fight for rights that they don't legitimately have. Chris, what are your thoughts?
And you have a lot of people making those comments. You have a lot of people making the counter comment, just as Mr. Miranda did. You see where the hate groups and the KKKs, they're growing that strength because they are very prejudicial in regards to their thought processes as well. They just see one piece of that issue and they glam onto it, and they throw that out there for other people to glam onto, such as the politicians were making during their election campaigns. They're not focusing on the whole overall issue in regards to individuals who are coming over here just like my grandparents did to come for a better life. Yeah, there are certain ways in regards to doing that, in regards to documentation and paperwork and things like that, that people do. Some don't, some do. Yet they preach hate. And that right there is the thing that you got to focus on. They're preaching a method and a style of hate towards individuals which shouldn't be tolerated. No,
Eugene, the African American population has shown to a degree their disdain to a degree on the focal point of the Hispanic population that is trying to say that illegal immigration should flourish. I mean those have been some issues that we have discussed periodically throughout the year. What are your thoughts on some of those discussions?
Well, I think there are people trying to drive a wedge between African Americans and Latino Americans, mainly over the illegal immigration movement, which I think is wrongly categorized as any kind of hate movement, because think about it, most reasonable people would never see themselves linked with the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party. The problem, and Robert suggested it, the political problem with the way politicians are addressing this is that